Hi everyone, I've got James Kershaw Naylor from SOCS with me this morning. I'm sure you all know James, if not, you should. And we were just talking about one of the best ways to improve your work on SOCS is to get some training. But anyway, I thought James would share some top tip with us. In 10 minutes, if he was the director of sport, what would he and how would he be using SOCS to help? So thanks, James, for this. Really appreciate it, and share your words of wisdom with us.
Cheers, Chris. Good to see you as always, mate. Yeah, I think at this time of year, it's a good time to reflect on, your use of the system. As soon as you're up and running, you sort of head down in the trenches, just using it the way you've always sort of used it. So if I had 10 minutes with any director of sport and I had to show them some top tips for this year, this is probably what I would show them. I'm going to focus a bit on booking training, communications, some of the admin features, a couple of new features we built into the RFU. So we'll go through that. Chris, you're then going to share the video.
Yeah.
I will point everybody right at the start from the website. If you go into book a demo, you need sort of time with us in here, there's ways of sort of booking training, etc. But when you're logged into SOCS, you've also got a help and support button at the bottom right. So if you take nothing else away, if you only watch the first 30 seconds of this video, more fool you, but the help and support button there will get you sort of all the information that you need, and everything that I'm going to cover is listed in here, and you can email us and book some training. And I think that will be my main tip, actually, Chris. If I bet a lot of the PADSIS schools, all schools really, a lot of them would have been onboarded 10 years ago. I bet that for a lot of them is the last time they had a training session on the system, and there's lots of new features. So book some training. It costs approximately 100 quid for a session. And for some of the schools, if you're a member of PADSIS and you haven't had training for ages, whisper it quietly. We just do it, we'll just do a quick re-onboard with you. No money needs to change hands. So that's on tape now. It's really, really useful for us too, because the worst thing for us is schools don't know what they're doing, or they're on to the director of sport number 3 since the system was rolled out 5 years ago, and he or she hasn't been properly onboarded. So don't be strangers. So in terms of I think what schools miss from the communications point of view, one of the key things, I'm afraid, is that you've got to rinse and repeat your parental engagement. We've just done an article about this on our website. This is a constant battle you're fighting with parents to get them to engage with your platforms. So every term, you've got to send out some communication materials about how not just SOCS, but all of your school systems work. For the heads of sport, SOCS is going to be a big part of that. Now, we have some really nice email templates that you can use. So if you don't know where to find them, get in touch and we can furnish you with a really nice email that explains to the parents how to use the sports website, how to use its calendar, how to go to sports and teams, football, pick the first 11, how to download that team's fixtures to your calendar, how to scrutinize for team sheets, map points, etc. We've got all of that on our fingertips. We can share that with you. You've probably already got a good way of doing it, but it's not a fire and forget system where you do that on the 1st of September and then just hope everybody reads that email, constantly chipping away at that. If you're using one of the sports websites which we provide, Chris pointed out that a lot of schools go quite hard at this and they brand it, update the photos. So it's autumn sports in the autumn terms, summer sports in the summer term. Some schools don't brand it, but a nice way of personalizing this so that it really looks and feels like part of your school furniture is get some branding on there. There is a small additional cost to do that, but I think it's worth considering. It's a couple of hundred quid per annum, and you can sort of brand up your own product. In terms of a new feature from comms, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I'm going to mention it. Most of you, particularly those of you that will use this for a long time, will be used to just pointing parents at that website and saying all the information's on there. Go to charterhousesports.org or pgssports.com and we will keep that up to date. And that works really well. There has also always been the web app version, which is just the view of this they get when they're on their mobile device. That works beautifully too. However, there is another game in town now, and that is the capability for all of your parents and pupils to log in. What does that mean? Well, that means that a parent at your school can log into SOCS, into the SOCS parent portal or the SOCS pupil portal, and they can see their child's full timetable, including their fixtures. Now, if you're sensible enough to also use us for co-curricular music, then great, you get everything blended. But if you're only using this for sport, then you get the fixtures rolled in here. So instead of Mr. and Mrs. Aaron having to go to pgssport.com or charterhousesports.org.uk, guess which team Chris is playing for, and then find the fixture, they can just log in and see exactly which fixture with all the same information that's on the sports website. And instead of syncing to the first 11, they can synchronize to Chris. So what that does is that puts Chris's fixtures, music lessons, clubs, but for you guys, really just the fixtures you're interested in, onto their Apple, Google, or Outlook calendar. So there's this lovely little sort of parent portal view. And the reason I would say it's not technically new, because we've always had that as a feature of our co-curricular system. What's new is that we've now, for free, rolled that portal across the sports product. So if you only use our sports system, you just get that now. And this is getting slightly more technical, but if you combine that parent portal with your own school portal, something like Firefly, My School Portal, or iSAMS, then we can do seamless integration where the parents don't even have to remember a new login. They just click a button and they land on their child's timetable view. So from a sports point of view, that is gold, because then what you're really just saying is, look, to cut through all the noise, just log in and you can see your kids' fixtures for the week. Dreamy. So comms, rinse and repeat. Consider how you're doing it. Are you doing it through the school sports website? Is that nicely connected to the school website? Do you have parents logging in yet? Do you have our calendar module, which blends it all together too? Think about how you're doing it. Just have a drains up review of how this information is going out to parents. From an admin point of view, I'm going to very quickly just show you, this isn't a tip so much as a new feature for the rugby fraternity, really. So if you are your rugby teams, I've spoken to Mike at the RFU, we've done some work. There is now, every time you create a fixture, most of you will have noticed that you can pin it as a tour game, a triangular, a trial. There are now 2 new options, T1 rugby non-contact and modified contact. If you could, the more accurate you are with that, the better. Not just because it alerts parents and pupils to the form of rugby union that you're playing, but also because all that data is now harvested by the RFU. They can now see across your rugby programs what percentage of games you're playing, which are modified contact and T1 rugby. So that's it. That's all you need to remember. When you're adding a fixture and it's a rugby fixture, remember that there's a new match type. That'd be very helpful, and you'll be hearing more from the RFU about that. My top tips from admin, I think the thing that everybody misses, and Chris, you were talking to me about this before the call, is if you run a big sports program, as most of you do, and you've got lots of fixtures happening on the same day, you do not need to go in and out of each fixture to edit its team or the details of that fixture. So if you need to change up all the teams, venues, locations, and timings, click on multi-team sheet editor, pick the teams which you are interested in tinkering with, click edit details and team sheets, and then the home screen here allows you to drag and drop pupils from team sheet to team sheet. But the bit which a lot of people miss is that there's a button here called Open All Fixture Editors, which you can then go into and change the venue, pin fixtures to a map. You can put a lunchtime in. You can click that little button there and it will roll the lunchtime now across every field. You could type in Bring, Gum, Shields, etc., and then copy that across all of your fixtures. So this is where you should go for mass edits. And if you're director of sport, often that does fall to some of the senior people in your team, if not yourself. Each coach picks his or her team, and then you log in, multi-team sheet editor, and then you do a sort of final check, shuffle things around, and maybe make a few last minute edits. Similarly, if there's a lot of games which have been together, you now don't need to cancel or postpone individual fixtures. You can click cancel and postpone, select all, set to cancelled, update, and that cancels all of your fixtures in one fell swoop. If you've got it wrong, you can stick them back on. Dead easy. So that for me is key. Multi-team sheet editor. Really, all four of these buttons allow you to mass edit a block fixture. Another newish feature, which some of you may have spotted, and I can't show you this because I'm logged into the SOCS sandbox, but on your own systems, go to the sports program, put a big date range in, click go, and to the left of these fixtures, you will see three colors. If your school added it, it's gray. If your opposition added it, it's purple. And if it was added by a competition organizer, it's gold. So you may want to scan fixtures that were added by your opponent. They might be wrong. Check them. Just sort of top secret, but coming soon, we are going to give you the option to force SOCS to only allow opposition to add fixtures against you as unpublished. So they would come in like this. So those two are now unpublished. And before they go out or released into the wild, you could check and then publish them. So that'll be some point this term. We're looking at just giving you a little bit more control. If you're getting a lot of nonsense pumped into your system by well-meaning, enthusiastic, but incorrect opponents down the road, then you can introduce a bit of control. Slightly nervous that what it might mean is that loads of fixtures come in unpublished and you forget to publish them. So we're going to sort of work on that. But I think it might be the lesser of two evils. In terms of a few other bits from here which you might have missed, you can now register all of your fixtures. You can go as far as registering on the bus, off the bus, and at the game. Too much to get into there for this 10-minute session. But if you want to talk about fixture registration, parents giving you consent, and if not consent, at least how is Johnny getting to the game and getting home from the game info, all automatically handled through SOCS, so that when you look at a register, you can actually see which kids are getting picked going back with the school and which are going back with a parent or a, in a taxi or a guardian or a friend, etc. We've got some really sophisticated tools to help you with that now. So if fixture collection arrangements are a big part of what grinds your gears, let us know. We've got a good toolkit to help you there, but that would require a training session. And then I suppose, Chris, probably running out of time a little bit. So the next thing, which I think most of you are aware of, but the reporting function. Make sure you're using participation reports, scrutinizing those. They're an excellent way of ensuring that nobody slips through the cracks. Seeing how many pupils in a particular year group have engaged with sport and who hasn't, importantly. So if you're not using, I'm amazed how many schools I speak to don't realize that at a click of a button, it can pump out the entire playing record for every pupil at the school for that year and who's played the most, who's not playing at all, etc. So do use those. And then slightly more advanced, but I'll quickly show you this. If you use multi-team sheet editor, let's make all 5 of these games away games. So if I go in and open all fixture editors, and I'll make all of these away. And because they're away, there's some sort of transport arrangement. So if you are using transport and pumping transport information into SOCS, then what you can do, particularly in combination with those registers, is we can go to today's teams for Saturday the 31st. So if you go to the today's teams option, and in here, this typically will list your first 15 girls, second 15, third 15, etc. But you can rearrange the team sheets into transport arrangements. So that's now a list of everybody on coach 2, which is a composite of people in various teams. That's now everybody in coach 1. And if you were taking fixture registers, so we go back to the sports program and we actually take some of these registers, save, tick, tick, etc., then what that view will give somebody back at school potentially is a live view of exactly who is on that bus, who is not on that bus, particularly useful if there's a delay or an accident. And you will note that there's also a transport to and from column. So if you are capturing that data, they got to the fixture via school, they got back via school. It's a really nice central resource for somebody, a transport manager, or somebody back at school to use. And while I'm on it, I will mention, if you're not already, we can also integrate medical data from your MIS. In most cases, if you've got all the medical notes for pupils on the MIS, we can then incorporate that. That means that on your team lists, however you slice and dice them, we will have the medical flags. Super helpful. And if you export that to Excel, it comes out with everybody's, who needs an inhaler, an EpiPen, etc. Final thing then, if you're not already using it, my favorite bit of the system, SOCS Sport Big Screen. This is a digital signage notice board that allows you to get away from paper notice boards and just chuck your team sheets for the week up on a screen. We now offer this at a better price where you get the co-curricular music and big sports big screens as a pack. So if you're using those other modules and you don't have any of these, you can negotiate as 3 departments rather than 1 at a good price to get the big screen pack up. And just to sort of finish off, all of these front ends of SOCS, the pupil parent portal, the big screens, everything is being rebuilt onto much sexier new frameworks and will be being beautified over the next sort of few months. You will have spotted, if you're avid users of schoolsrugby.co.uk, that it's had a refit. So all of our products, from your sports website to the digital signage, eventually the SOCS itself, over the next year or so, will be having a, I would say, calling it a fresh lick of paint would be underselling it. I think it'll be being moved on to much more modern frameworks. I still think it looks lovely. It's very functional, but as with any system, it needs a refresh every now and again. So that's coming soon. How's that, Chris? I think that's about 10 minutes, maybe a bit more.
Outstanding. There's so much there, that can really help directors of sport make your job give you more time, give you more data to share with your governor's report, or when you've got a report to your head or whatever, or as you say, check up on maybe some kids not playing and you can go and find them and say, what are you interested in? Would you like to play in this? So yeah, gold there. And I think, as you said at the beginning, bottom line is, if you haven't had any training for the last 5 to 10 years, just get in contact.
I think so, particularly because the makeup of the departments now will be so different. And, so many of the director of sports we started off with are now in much more senior roles. They've moved on. They've moved onwards and upwards into deputy headships, second mistress or master roles. So it's that training's been cascaded down through departments, and it's lost. Some things have been missed, and we've built loads of new features. So I think they're missing out on it. The other thing I would say, contractually obliged to mention this, being one of the directors at SOCS, is more and more the real power of SOCS isn't just the admin and comms through the sports module. It's the interplay of it with the extracurricular and co-curricular modules, the music module, the trips module that's coming out next year, the room booking module that we're about to release this term. So that cross-pollination of conflict resolution and registration and who is where and communicating the whole piece, that's now key. And actually, we really don't even sell the sports module separately anymore. I mean, most of the schools and PADSs will have bought it on its own. And now the school's being onboarded now just by SOCS, and that's the sport co-curricular music module all blended. So I think there's definitely, if they're real advocates, get us in front of their head of co-curricular, head of music, and get everybody singing off the same hymn sheet. But I would say that, wouldn't I?
I'd get it all on the calendar. It's the easiest way for everybody. It makes life easier, more efficient. And then the one thing teachers want is more time, and this will give them more time. So that's brilliant, James.
Cheers,
Thanks
mate.
for sharing all that, and hopefully people will be in contact with you soon. Thanks
Cheers,
again.
buddy.